This is a huge challenge. It's also a challenge for myself, and I would imagine any leader to be able to go back and say, do I really understand the change? And when you look at consumer groups, the younger the group, the more important for them is the transparency and the fact that brands and companies are doing something valuable for society. Social media has made it virtually impossible to do bad stuff long-term and hide it.
Welcome to Impact Leaders with Magda Petryniak. My today's guest is Wojciech Borowski, the Group CEO of McCANN Poland and a true titan of the creative industry in Poland and abroad. After being raised and educated in the United States, Wojciech decided to return to Poland in 1996 with a vision to contributing to the democratic and the free chapter of Poland. Since 1997, he has been a contributor in the development of the advertisement, marketing, and content creation sectors in Poland, being recognized as one of the top professionals in the industry locally and globally. Wojciech, welcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the invitation. Very happy to be here and excited, actually.
I'm excited. Your professional and life journey has been very exceptional. And I wonder, is your mission to return to Poland in 1996 to contribute to rebuilding and the democratic transformation of Poland stay the same, or has it evolved? How do you define it today?
My vision was simply just to be a part of it and to do my best to contribute. But I was always humble enough to know that my role will be very small and in a way meager. But I think that's also a way to keep not too much pressure on myself. So so I've just overall been very much enjoying the journey. I feel I'm very, very fortunate to be where I am, and I can honestly say that I feel that the journey has been very, very interesting.
That's very modest of you to say that you're doing your best to contribute, because actually you are the head of one of the probably the greatest and most rewarded groups, the marketing advertisement groups in Poland, McCANN Poland. What is the philosophy that you want to execute at McCANN? And let me maybe give a little introduction to that question. I actually come from the marketing space as well, and I have been studying, exploring different marketing trends over the years. And obviously, they change because the customer behaviors change, the global economy changes, and we have to react to it. One of the leading themes that I observe is humanism in marketing, that it's represented by Philip Kotler and probably many more. What is your philosophy that you execute at McCANN, and what do you define as kind of the guiding principle in marketing today?
McCann began in the US in 1912. So we're a very mature global company. In Poland, McCann was the first international agency to begin its operations in the beginning of 1991. And now we're also one of the leading agencies on the market and very present in the region. Our philosophy has always been linked to the truth. So meaning, we started as a company with the motto, truth well told. This has evolved into a focus on truth to impact with lots of proprietary tools that help us get there. And what's interesting is, in order to survive for such a long time, even in Poland, that's where it's over 30 years now, in one respect, we have a very clear vision of where we're going. And in another respect, we're always making sure that we're a step ahead of the game and able to change the way that we operate, be it technologically or having the right people in our company, to always make sure that we're not only talking about truth well told in a way that it was done, let's say 20 years ago or 15 or even 5 or even 3, how quick things are going, that we're always searching for the truth and being able to tell an interesting story about the truth, or even create a dialogue with consumers about the truth in a way which is very relevant to the times that we're in right now.
Wow. I'm almost like speechless when I listen that your motto is truth well told, because sometimes we see the industry as based on, and I'll be very straightforward, manipulation.
Sure.
Or using some kind of tricks and brain hacks and all kinds of, brain science to manipulate people towards decision making, towards buying decisions, towards certain behaviors. And we see the power of marketing in affecting elections, in building some consumer brand. And you speaking about the truth. Sure. So this is very impressive. And it seems it pays off, because your recent campaign that you realized with Mastercard won all awards on the market. And I actually have it on my paper. I don't want to miss anything, but that's the Lions, the Cannes Lions International Festival of Creativity, 2 years in a row. And what is even more exceptional, the first time in history, Black Pencil, which is a highly prestigious D&AD award for Poland. Can you tell more about these awards?
Sure. I mean, it's first of all, on top of Truth Well Told and Truth to Impact, the thing that I'm a very, very happy man is if I have great people in my agency. I have great clients on the client side, and we have great teamwork. And that's what I think, that's the first absolute fundamental pillar which has enabled us to have such unprecedented success as the last 2 years in Cannes and the D&AD. I think what is also very important, this isn't something that came up, just happened. We actually have been working on a process and a way of creating exceptional work and projects together with Mastercard for over 6 years now. And it's really a process. How do we find the truth? How do we leverage the data that we have access to? How do we find the right partners in order to help us succeed? How do we build the right communication? And how do we define the right problem or issue that needs to be solved, which in one respect is very much in line with the DNA of Mastercard and our philosophy of Truth Well Told and Truth to Impact. And how is it that we can really help something that's a long-term benefit, not only to business, it has to be in line with business, but also to society.
Can you share maybe some kind of, the kitchen
behind the scenes?
Behind the scenes and the kitchen
Sure.
of that process, because that's truly fascinating that it both aligns to the needs of the society, that's
Sure.
the social impact, but also it contributes to the business of the partner. How do you, can you tell us about
Sure.
this framework, this
Yeah.
process that you execute?
Well, maybe I'll tell just a little bit about the campaign.
Sure.
Because there were more, but let me just concentrate on one. The one which is, I think, most easy to explain is something that happened quite recently. So when Russia invaded the Ukraine. And we had a situation where obviously all of us were in shock in Poland, what is happening around the world. And immediately what we saw a huge amount of refugees coming from Ukraine to Poland, with Poland having really not much infrastructure, which was prepared to be able to take on, we had 4.5 million people coming within months to the border. Yeah? So this was the first thing, is how can we help? Yeah? So we started actually together with our clients going to the border and helping these people, picking them up, bringing them to Warsaw. And in this discussion, in this couple-hour drive from the border to Warsaw, you get to meet these people, talk to them, see what are their ambitions, what are their aspirations, what they want to do, what they fear. So this was the first thing, is that we got to know the refugees coming to Poland personally. So this is where we started to define the insights. On the other hand, there's a phenomenon which is known around the world. It's called the brain drain. Brain drain means that in all developed countries at the moment, you have a drain of people moving, especially young educated people, moving from small towns and villages into the big cities. So the big cities are growing, the rural areas are struggling. Yeah, so we knew this. So the whole idea that we had is knowing that the big cities don't have the infrastructure to be able to give these people the right start. Yeah, and on the other hand, we knew that in order for these people to be able to feel comfortable and assimilate, they have to feel appreciated being a part of our country, being a part of the economy, being a part of the society. So basically, we've developed a tool that helped define what are the skills that the refugees coming in have, and what are the places in Poland where we can transfer them to, where they can immediately go find a job, be relevant in the local community. We actually even gave them information about where they can rent an apartment. What is the price, cost of living there? So let's say in theory you had someone that was a dentist. And we found out that in a small western town in Poland, they haven't had a dentist for 2 years because all the dentists went to the big cities. So what we did is we got these people to go into this city, exactly where they could start the job, exactly where they could live with their family. And you can imagine in the small town how happy these people were to have a dentist that they were missing. Yeah? Yeah. Same thing with plumbers, you know, everything, English teachers, all different type of, and this is what happened. And it's incredible that out of the 1.5 million that decided to stay in Poland, 25% used the tool that we developed in order to find the right job, the right place to start, and really contribute to society and become a part of it. Yeah. So rather than having people that were refugees in a tent in the city center, you know, and struggling, and also with their self-esteem, they immediately became a part of our society, contributed, and, you know, and it's a bit of a different starting point. Yeah. So this is, and the campaign became famous, and it's actually one that's a benchmark of something that's come up from Poland, which can be used globally, because obviously refugee problems are in all developed countries. Yeah? So Canada is looking at it, the US is looking at it, France is looking at it to invoke it. So it was a wonderful moment where something created in Poland became a benchmark of how you can do this globally. And that's why, you know, the success of the campaign in all of the most important international festivals of creativity, innovation, and just out-of-the-box thinking.
That must have made you very proud when you were in Cannes receiving the award, wasn't it?
It was, you know, I've been in the industry, as you've kindly noticed, almost 30 years, and it was by far something that it was worth it, you know, to work pretty hard for these all this time, and to see my team, see my clients, see my colleagues, and of course feel it myself, the pride of having something like this come from Poland and then be able to really impact the refugee approach globally.
Yeah, I love it, because you are not only kind of justifying the idea because it's needed. Mm-hmm. There is demand, huge demand for this kind of services. So you're providing services, but you're actually helping these people feel dignified, human, yes, needed, yes, and accepted in a society, which is, I think, one of the lacking elements in a good integration of immigrants in local societies.
But I think also what's very important to say, and this was all done in line with Mastercard's philosophy of financial inclusion. So it's something, what happened was exactly what this company strives for, obviously in different types of situations, but this was absolutely in line with what is the philosophy of Mastercard, how can financial inclusion, how can they help, and how can this actually make it something that's very long term? Because I would imagine that people that were supported in such a way by the Mastercard brand will be quite loyal to this brand for a very, very long time. Because it really did impact their lives in a very, very positive way, an important way, and meaningful way.
When you're speaking about such campaigns, but also naming companies that are truly an example of this philosophy of creating impact, comes to my mind this idea of ESG, maybe social responsibility. Is it really so that these kind of trends are now at the front of marketing campaigns? Are they there is a new wave of this kind of philosophies, or?
It's without question, yes. And we actually did lots of studies and research globally and locally at McCann to better understand social changes and approaches, what is important. So more or less, social media has made it virtually impossible to do bad stuff long-term and hide it. Yeah. Of course, there's lots of misinformation, all of that, but nonetheless, so when you look at it and when you look at consumer groups, the younger the group, the more important for them is the transparency and the fact that brands and companies are doing something valuable for society. What's actually a very interesting fact is, in our study, it came out that younger groups actually believe that brands and companies have a greater impact on society than governments. And the ones that will be working in such a way that consumers are proud of what they're doing and they accept what they're doing and they give them not only thumbs up, but they actually support what they're doing, they will reward them with loyalty and with being their customers. And if it's the opposite situation, then the companies will be penalized by lack of business and fall. So it's a huge topic. It's very important, and we see it everywhere. Our clients, how much more relevant are CO2 emissions, tracking it, what's happening, do we really need to go on an airplane to fly across the Atlantic? Maybe we can do it by video conference. And, so it's a very, very important topic. And it's one that on top of being important for society and obviously Mother Earth, it's something that's very good for business. So it all comes together.
I'm a great believer of Business for Impact because this program is all about leaders who lead with their vision to contributing to better worlds. But some call me that I'm very idealistic. I'm happy to see you and hear from you that there are more people who believe in that. However, let's ask a very straightforward business question. Do you have companies or businesses that come to your agency and they ask you, help us create this positive impact, but you are struggling to see that ingrained in line with their culture? Sorry to be so straightforward, but
sure.
But I think I'm kind of reflecting some of the skeptics of this ideology or idea of ESG. Some just call it the marketing slogan, marketing trend. Sure. So how do you ensure that you work with a partner that is not only maximizing on the idea of ESG, but is actually doing that on a daily basis?
To be very frank and transparent, clients come to us because they have a business issue to resolve. And this is what we are. We're in the business of marketing, communication, creating content, which helps our clients resolve business issues. The current way that society is going, it's very difficult to resolve a business issue not doing stuff that is accepted by society. So it's, again, good business practice. And we're not a company that's a non-for-profit, Red Cross type of agency just helping. What we say is again, going back to the Mastercard example, we have to understand what is the philosophy, what is the DNA of the company that's coming to us. We have to really understand well what is the business objectives that they have and how we can support them in achieving them. And in today's reality, if you don't have something more to prove or do something more which justifies the fact that you have a positive impact on society as a whole, it's quite difficult to be very successful.
Can you measure that in business metrics? Do you if you have a more skeptical CEO that hears about the budget to spend, can you show the ROI that investing this much in such trends will actually result in better P&L and all the business metrics?
Sure. I mean, it's actually not so complicated. Our first metric is sales. So if we're doing something that has a negative impact on sales, we see immediately that we're doing something incorrectly. And actually, if we behave in such a way, we probably lose the client quite quickly. So we try to do the opposite, and help them with that. And another thing is with all of our major, especially the multinational, the large corporate clients, we're all the time following what is the consumer sentiment versus their brand, versus their product. So we see exactly what is the correlation between the buying or the issues with the business, but also with the sentiment, and what is the emotional bond, which is fundamental in today's reality, with our clients' brands, and how are we helping them achieve what should be achieved, which is love.
Wojciech, imagine I'm starting a job at McCANN Poland today.
Welcome.
And yeah, I'm very happy. I'm very excited. I'll be in charge of maybe, account for one of your major clients. What are the principles, the values and rules in the company that I will experience from day one at McCANN Poland?
Sure. So one is our operational model, which is you have to learn and understand our philosophy of the truth to impact, learn all the tools with it, and see how we operate in order to get there. So this is a technical, process-oriented way that you have to approach a client. And second is we are very, very committed to having a culture of constructive feedback. So we actually have internal trainings regarding this. We try to do our best because, as we all know, it's not very easy to have all of our employees feel enabled to be able to openly talk to their superiors about what they think is good, what they think should be improved, what they like, don't like, and also a way of superiors talking to their people. How do I relay the feedback in such a way that everyone understands that it's a gift? So again, there's a process of how do we give the feedback so it's actually true feedback. Because if you come to me and tell me creatives show you a campaign idea and you say, I don't like it, that's not feedback. Yeah, we have to go into why. Yeah. And how do you relay that to the people, that worked, let's say, 4 nights in a row, or, it's everything they have is on the table. How do you give them feedback in such a way that it's helpful? And of course, it can be positive feedback, but it can be feedback which shows, I have a different point of view. These are things I see. And this is something that I personally believe is what makes us stand out in the market. Because as we know, the Polish education system wasn't based on a feedback culture, especially between the students and the teachers. Yeah, so it's something that we really have to work hard at. First of all, for people to feel confident enough to do it, but second of all, to trust our organization and our culture enough to be able to do this. So this is something that I would put a lot of emphasis, and we would put a lot of effort into making sure that you learn both the process and then feel comfortable with the culture, that you can function in it. And if it would turn out that either one is a place that doesn't work for you or you don't like it, we would try to amicably say that maybe it's time to find a different place. And we would look for someone that feels this is where they want to be and these are the values that will make them flourish.
It's very interesting. As a leader of the organization, what are the greatest challenges that you face when it comes to the culture and people, the right people on board? It's very broad, I know, but I think we are in the midst of, great transformations, not just technological, but also, demographical and generational.
Sure.
So I think it's pretty tough time for leaders of organizations how to secure operational, robust business models, but at the same time, I think it requires more patience, I think, and more focus on people these days. How do you find it?
Well, I think fundamental is surely empathy, understanding that the tempo of changes is so quick and actually so radical that it can be disconcerting for many people. This is a huge challenge. It's also a challenge for myself, and I would imagine any leader to be able to go back and say, do I really understand the changes? Am I taking my people and my organization in the right direction of the changes? Are we leveraging the right technology? Are we helping people make the transformation? Yeah, because surely there's two things which are fundamental. A, if I hear from anyone, this is how it's been done before, so we should continue. Big question mark. It comes up right above my head, and I'm like, are you sure? Because the speed of change is so fast. And on the other hand, understanding that, you know, it's simply, it can be just tiring, that all the time you have to not only evolve, but you have to transform. And this is something that's never happened before in society. Yeah, so it's a very big challenge, and it's quite taxing for everyone involved. Yeah. But the upside is it's actually very interesting. So for me, it's I wouldn't change going back even to the years of the ad man industry in the 70s, when it was the heyday of advertising and everyone wanted to work in advertising. It was the most creative and incredibly high margin business. So but it was actually much more simple, because at the end of the day, what did you do? You did a TV campaign, a billboard, and a press ad, yeah, and maybe radio. And here, the tools that we have access to now and the changes of the technology just really make you, in a way, honest about your intellectual abilities, but also your commitment to keep on learning and keep on evolving, and knowing that even if you feel you know what should be known today, next week you might not. And you really have to keep your eye on the ball to make sure that you're evolving with the trends. Yeah.
So where do you personally look for inspiration? How do you stay, you know, on time with everything that's been changing, these new trends, new technologies, new business models? Where do you look for inspiration?
Many places. First, fundamental for me is my peer group. So I'm a member of YPO Poland since 2009, and I have a very strong peer group of just people that are very senior business people who I can exchange knowledge with, points of view, and who I learn from, and also share my experiences. Very important for me is my family, and watching both my wife and my kids. What technologies are they using? How are they communicating? What is the direction that with their colleagues and with their friends, you know, how is this evolving? Incredibly important for me is just reading. Every day I have a slot of practically, no matter what happens, I have my 45-minute slot for reading every day. So this is something that's very important. And the books that I read are nonfiction books, not that I have anything against. It's always books regarding either people that inspire me, or about topics, or about technologies, or about evolution of business, leadership, psychology, everything that I find, you know, really relevant to what I do every day. And actually, for me, also a very important aspect is meditation, where I feel I ground myself, and then I allow for many ideas come to me, or they just come to me, and that helps me. Being healthy, fit, having a clear head, that's very important. So I would say there's a whole range of stimulus and inspirations that I have around me, but overall what is fundamental is the right balance of them. Yeah, so it's not to be a person that only reads but never moves, or not a person that just runs but never reads. Yeah, so it's a mix.
It's a mix, but it's also very integrated. There's this integrated approach to humanism and to leadership as well. You mentioned some of the areas like meditation that I think were kind of outskirts of the business schools, and nowadays they are brought and more centered. Why do you think this is changing, that we speak more openly about things like spirituality or physical condition of leaders or mental practices?
I think it's a matter of consciousness. So people are just much more conscious that it's something that's very relevant and beneficial to them. And I think also, again, the speed of change and the need to really be able to ground yourself is also helpful in finding these areas of grounding. Yeah? And that's why I think it's just something that's reached a tipping point where just the right amount of people started doing it, talking about it, and we're just at a time where it's not a niche thing anymore. It's actually part of many people, very active people's way of staying clear in the head.
Yeah. Let me come back one more time to business sphere. You have been with McCANN Poland, McCANN Group for a long time, and I know that there has been peaks and valleys, as always in business. But could you please recall one moment that was kind of transformative moment for you, that maybe the moment that you feel you have been tested on this deeper level as a leader, your values, your approach, and how did you overcome this moment?
I can say that in my long business journey, I've had quite a few moments like that. And we're more or less challenged on a daily, at least weekly basis. I mean, it's all the time. But I think, something that comes to mind is I actually had a fundamental situation where my management team, who I worked with for many years, and we were a very close-knit team, just had a difference of opinion on which direction we should take for the future. And this was a very difficult situation for me, where what is more important in this? Is it going in the direction that I personally feel is the right direction for the company, our people, the organization, or the values that I had and the loyalty versus the people that I've worked with for such a long time? And this was actually very difficult and quite heartbreaking, because we just didn't agree. So the only way was either keep the disagreement but keep us together, or agree that we don't disagree and part ways in a way that they can find a place where they can take a stab at the direction that they think is the correct direction. And I continue the journey with the company, steering it in a way that I felt was the right direction. And this was hugely challenging, yes.
It sounds like that. It's a quite also personal dilemma.
Sure.
So how did you find a way out of this situation?
It's very difficult. I mean, we parted ways, yeah. We parted ways. I tried to make it in a situation where it was as amicable and civilized as possible. But end of the day, it was a very difficult, heartbreaking situation, yeah, because we had to accept that a chapter, and before we had many fruitful chapters, but this has come to an end, and we have to begin new chapters in a different setup, personal setup, yeah. So part ways.
But it sounds like you stay true to your values, your what you thought was important, true in that situation. Do I read it correctly? Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Because again, I'm a believer in karma. And I think, such situations also create karma. So it's good to make them in such a way that the karma is as positive as possible, because it always comes back to you.
Yeah. What are other values that you believe in, but you also bring them to the organization, the core principles, the core values that you lead the organization with? I
think mutual respect is a very important value, and transparency, and just the understanding that within the company, within the agency, within our group, we are there to support each other, even if it is with feedback that isn't only positive, but to really support each other, looking out for each other. And fundamentally, our role is to help our clients, but humans, thrive. And the discussions that we have is, it's very easy just to look at the huge brands that we look for, the big multinational corporations, the campaigns that we're doing, and it's nice. But at the end of the day, you're talking to people that many times have a mortgage on the house, are worried about the schooling of their children, are having issues with health of an elderly parent, various things. And end of the day, to remember that we are human to human, and our role is to support these people as best as we can, that if the mortgage is very important, we don't do such a campaign for them that they lose their job. Yeah. And we actually try to figure out, how do we create such a campaign or help them that, you know, they're secure in their company and that they flourish in their company and that the mortgage becomes a lesser stress on them than otherwise. Yeah. So this is what I try to do on a daily basis. Yes.
I love it. I started with asking, you know, about what philosophy in marketing that you follow or you build, asking about this human-centric approach, and obviously you put humans at the center, at the heart of every action, every process, every interaction.
Sure.
But tell me, please, I keep coming back to your winning campaigns. What is your success to like constantly producing award-winning campaigns? And what can other organizations learn from you?
Well, first point was that it's not something that just happened. We worked many years to be able to establish this. Obviously, you have to have great people on both the agency side and the client side, which buy into the vision and are actually quite disciplined into following the process. You have to be, in a way, lucky. And this is maybe a bit of an oxymoron that we were lucky to have such a huge problem as we did with the refugee crisis. It was so unique, it was such a big problem that getting an idea and a solution for it was a huge, huge achievement. But if we didn't have this problem, we wouldn't be able to find the solution for this problem. So part of the thinking, and again, our culture is, you know, paradoxically, we're actually quite lucky to be in a place where there's many problems to be solved, because that gives us the opportunity and challenge for us to be able to showcase what we know and how do we get them, how do we solve the problems, yeah?
That's a huge paradox, and actually we are in the center of this another tragedy that it's affecting Poland and the neighboring countries,
Yes.
The flood. So as you mentioned, there are problems that businesses can contribute to solving, the social problems. And that's one of the elements that I sometimes participate in discussions, especially with new businesses, startups, that they are sometimes accused of creating artificial problems or finding solutions to problems that do not weigh as much as the social problems. But that's not a common approach, I would probably dare to say, in the marketing industry, to focus on real problems that we and our partners can contribute to solving.
Sure, and I think it's good business. Because the way that we approach problems, we approach them through the lens of a business point of view.
Yeah.
So this is how we approach them, and then how we try to solve them in order that they're relevant also for the business. So it's all intertwined. Yeah, it's very important to say that. And I think, you know, what's important from our perspective is we're in it for the long term. As you said, I've been with McCann many years. We've been on the market for many years here in Poland, but also globally. So our approach isn't to have a good quarter or a good half year, or let's just be very successful and then move on. It's actually, how do we keep being very relevant? How do we help our clients be successful? And how do we make sure that we're around next year, the year after, the next 5 years, and that we're still, in a way, in a position to being co-creators of the industry. That's also something that's very important to us. It's something that we feel that we really should look at it much broader than just, you know, are we making our P&L and our clients having business success? What is our contribution to the industry as a whole, or our role in the industry as a whole?
And that's actually my next question. How does this approach, this philosophy, and the proof, because you won this most prestigious awards, is actually affecting the industry globally? What is McCann Poland bringing to the table, bringing to the industry? How do you kind of crack the current thinking?
Sure. I mean, we actually have three. In recent years, we had 3 very awarded and very data-driven campaigns. So first thing that we bring to the table is we show that if you ask the right question and if you're able to identify the right problem, using data can be incredibly helpful in finding the solution. But data in itself, if you don't ask the question or if you don't identify the problem, just sits there. Yeah? Data doesn't come up with ideas on how to be used. So this was, let's say, the first thing that we show as an example to our industry in Poland, but also globally, as we've become a leader in the way that we're able to leverage the knowledge coming from data, and how are we able to find the truth in order to use the data in order to make things successful. And also the problems that we identify, because the three campaigns. First one was during COVID, we leveraged data to tell people when is the best time to go into a shop, meaning when are the lines and the least amount of people in the shops, because no one wanted to get COVID. Yeah, so we did a whole campaign with retailers where we're saying, you know, this is actually the good time to go because it's much less probable that you'll be waiting in line and much less susceptible to getting COVID. Yeah. Second one was with what we discussed already with the refugees. How do we get them to assimilate, contribute to the economy, again, leveraging data. And the third one, which was just recently awarded, was leveraging data to show small business owners that actually who you have as your neighbor is fundamentally important to your business. Because we saw correlations that between certain types of businesses, actually both of the businesses, the revenue goes up. So if you have a flower shop, for example, it's ideal for you to have a bakery right next door. So we actually created a campaign where small business owners were recruiting their neighbors, again, through a digital app, in order to make sure that they have the right neighbor and the revenues are supported together, yeah, and they rise together. And it's all stuff that we came up saying, okay, how can we use this data? How, what can the data help us? What type of problem? And as we know, having the right neighbor overall is quite important. Yeah. It turns out that in especially small and medium businesses, it's fundamental.
I love it.
And this idea, again, if you're looking at it, this is, of course, something that we tested on the Polish market. It's proved that it's working. It's already being tested right now or incorporated in Czech Republic. India wants to use it in the fourth quarter. And these are all ideas coming from Poland, yeah? But they are ideas which are relevant anywhere that you have small, medium businesses, which is more or less the entire globe, yeah?
Oh my gosh, it must be so fulfilling to observe this effect, the kind of almost now chain effect, because the company that was tested and actually well executed in Poland now can be multiplied globally.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
it feels
quite
great.
Nice.
Yeah.
But this is, again, it's so fantastic that and I'm so grateful to be a part of the industry at the moment that it is, because as you rightly said, the speed of change is quite strenuous, let's call it. Yeah. But on the other hand, the chances and the ability to do something that, from a country like Poland goes global and actually is very relevant to our clients' business, and again, very relevant to people that are using the technology, so they're consumers. It's just bringing everything together, so it's incredible.
Maybe a straightforward question, because you are now painting multiple spheres of your life: your personal, how you behave as a leader, your responsibility towards the society, and grow in the business. I often come to this famous talk by Clayton Christensen, "How do you measure your life?" And I always ask this question: what is your definition of success? What makes your life fulfilled?
I look at three fundamental pillars of my life, and they have to all be in balance in order to make me happy and successful. And I think a person that is just nice to be around, like for my wife and family. And the three pillars are, first one is, I call it love. So love means, what is my relationship with my closest family, with my closest friends, with people that are very relevant to me, and is this something that's in the right order? Do I have time for them? Do we spend enough time together? Is it meaningful time? And this is something that's fundamental. Second pillar is something I called live. Live meaning it's more about, how do I evolve as a human being? What do I do to stay sane, to, grow as a person. So exactly what we discussed, let's call it the spiritual aspect, the intellectual aspect, the physical aspect, and all of these. What is also, how much time am I giving myself to be in tune with nature, which I find fundamentally important. So this is the second pillar. And the third pillar is, I call it create. So what do I create, and what processes am I in, and what is my contribution that I can really be proud and have not only satisfaction, but feel that I'm contributing to something more than just simply having a business or making money. That is very important to me. So these three pillars are something that I actually look at let's say a monthly basis to make sure, and I think about it, are they in right balance? And if they are, then I'm a happy person and wake up in the morning with a smile on my face and ready to face the challenges.
Beautiful. I'm sure it's going to serve as an inspiration for many people who struggle with some of the elements in our life, because as you said, it's quite sometimes overwhelming, I don't even want to use multitask, but actually to handle the difficulties of the day. So that's very inspiring. The last question, Wojciech, you represent an example for a Pole who had probably great opportunities overseas in the United States, but decided to come back to Poland. You mentioned a brain drain, and sometimes we worry that the best talents, actually they flee, they escape, they look for better places to develop. What would you say to people who sometimes they think about leaving Poland and working abroad? How was this decision for you to come back to Poland? How did it work out for you?
Well, considering I'm a father of 3 children, happily married man with a business that I enjoy very much and have a great group of friends and loved ones, I can say I think it was a good decision. Yeah. But when I came, it was an assumption that I thought Poland was very interesting. It was 1996, big changes, and I more or less just wanted to learn more about my roots. Yeah, the country that my parents came from, my grandparents, but me being raised in the US was something that I was just curious. So I came, and as I said, I was thinking that things are very interesting. I'd love to be a part of it, contribute in some way. But I looked at it as a journey. We'll see what happens. Yeah, and so now, many years later, I'm still here. But I never assumed it's forever. So I never had such a plan. It just this is the way that my life flowed. And even there were times that I was thinking, okay, maybe enough of the Polish chapter. Maybe it's time to go back to the US where my parents and my sister lives. And I would think about it. And then something would happen in such a way that I would end up staying. So I think it's also being humble towards the journey, really, and just being understanding that, things happen and just make the most of them.
Wonderful. Last question.
Okay.
What is one thing that we as Poles do not appreciate enough that we actually have, and what is one thing that we should strengthen? And I'm asking for you because you probably do have this context of different cultures.
Sure.
And what I often observe when I work with multinational, multicultural organizations, that Poles are pretty humble and modest. And what do you find as one virtue, one trait that we should more appreciate, and one thing that we should strengthen?
So this is intertwined with my profession, because I absolutely find it appalling, I have to say, when you look at the rankings of Poland, where how it's viewed as a brand. Is it an interesting country to visit? The awareness of people of the incredible, so global society, rather of like the broad picture. Now, I'm not talking about special broad picture, the incredible journey and the success story of Poland, where we were in 1989, where we are today. The role that we can, and I hope will, play within the EU moving forward. So I just can't believe how much we have to offer, and how little and how unsuccessful we are in promoting our successes and ourselves in what we really can do to contribute to our CE region, to the broader region of Europe, and globally in general, because we really do have lots to offer. So it's not about, being, as we call it in Poland, a bouffon or conceited about it. It's just really understanding where our value is and be able to tell a good story on Truth Well Told about what it is that we have to offer and contribute, because this is a story that has really been yet told.
Wonderful. So we still do have a lot work to do, and hopefully the work that will create a greater impact for our region, for our country,
sure,
and for all. Wojciech, it's such a pleasure hosting you in this program. What is one thing that you would like to be remembered for, not just in this conversation, but actually, with people that you interact with?
To be honest, I don't function that way. So I don't think about, I try to do my best, and I try to help, like my mission also in regards to my people, but my family, my loved ones, is to be someone that has a positive influence on them and helps them grow in their journey, or at least doesn't get in the way.
Yeah.
So this is something that I try to do, but how they will remember me, it's up to them, and we'll see.
Yeah. I will remember this conversation for sure. Thank you so much for investing your time and sharing a beautiful journey, beautiful stories.
Thank you for inviting me. It was a pleasure.